Hello, this is David from DN Cognitive Counseling. If at first you don't succeed, try again. In the United States, 40% of marriages are remarriages. Now, why is that important? Well, for one thing, it shows that we don't give up on the institution. It seems that we keep trying. But second marriages bring a lot more complications. First off, many times when there's a second marriage, there are children involved from both ends, from one end. Sometimes there's visitation issues. And then, of course, comes the more complex aspects of financial connection. So what are the things to consider when you're starting a second remarriage? Or for both parties, if it's a both remarriage, or if it's later in life? There's a number of things to really think about when you're approaching it. And the first is to have an honest conversation about what you both expect. And I'm not going to sit here and say these are the right ways of doing things, because there aren't right ones. But in order for a second marriage to be successful, a lot of this needs to be discussed beforehand so that you don't get into a lot of issues later on. So again, start having an honest conversation. So everything related to money, assets, debt, people getting married, all of a sudden you find out that your spouse is $30,000 in debt, is going to have a very different emotional reaction. And people will feel lied to, not knowing what they're getting into. So it's important to discuss if you're having any debt or significant amount of debt. Also, your sources of income, financial responsibilities. Supposing for a minute you owe child support, or you'll be getting child support, but at a certain point it's going to end. Those things are very important to discuss and have an understanding in the financial picture that you're both going to create. A prenup. Prenup is something that a lot of people don't like to discuss because most people don't have a prenup going into their first marriage. But going into a second marriage, people are generally coming with assets. Not only that, the assets they have, they would like to go to the children that the assets are connected to. So for example, if you're married and you want your home that you have to go to your children, but if you get married, your spouse may say, wait a minute, I have a legal claim now to the house that we're in. A prenup takes care of that problem. So what do you do with the mortgage? Should the person pay some, pay part, pay half? So these are where the conversation really gets dicey, and you need to have the conversation about what is fair, what is the part that they should pay, and whether or not and what part they should be putting away for themselves in case they have children that they want to leave something to. So that's another aspect to think about. So a prenup's very important. One of the things to think about is to make 3 sets of money, right? You have your money, they have my money, and then we have our money. So you would set up that we're putting this towards the bills, that's our money. This is money that I'm keeping for myself, my money, and this is going to be the money that you're keeping for yourself and your money. Now that is going to be very, very different depending on how many children you have, what's the situation in terms of the ages, is there college that needs to be looked at, whether or not there needs to be a look at in terms of any of the children that have any special needs or special issues. And all that has to be looked at in terms of the finances and considering is when you're dealing with a second marriage. And of course, the last part of it, which is don't neglect the estate planning. Because again, otherwise, if you neglect that and you don't disseminate what you want for inheritance, you're going to end up hurting some of the children or all of the children, depending on how you set it up and the distribution and how it happens. So there should be a will on both the accounts, on all the assets, so that things are not left to confusion. What happens when one spouse dies before the other? What happens with that money? Many, many family squabbles and fights happen for these reasons, because these things are not discussed beforehand, and they cause tremendous, tremendous family problems. So if you are getting married, and when you're at the good part of your relationship, when things are so well, where you love each other and you feel like this real great feeling, this is a really good time to have those conversations. You don't want to have the conversations when you're in the marriage, and then it's too late to have to deal with whether or not you're willing to accept some of those things. I hope that you found this video helpful. I hope if you have any questions, please write in the comments below. If you like this video, hit like. If you dislike this video, please tell me why, and I'd love to be able to respond. And of course, if you didn't subscribe, please do. And if you'd like to become a patron to this channel, just hit the subscribe star and do it that way. Thank you very much. Have a good night and good mental health.